I think it was a little bit of both. I think there was
We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order.
lent himself to that.
Tax Increment Financing Commission, City of Washington, Missouri, Wednesday, May 27, 2026, 4 p.m. Daniel Tobin, Sandy Lucy. Here. Julie Scannell.
Here.
Becky Pate.
Here.
Bob Dopsch.
Here.
Nancy Walkenhorst.
Here.
Dr. John Bauer.
Here.
Mike Genovese.
Here.
Ben Holtz.
Here.
Dr. Cassandra Suggs. John McCullough.
Here.
Please rise for Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we get started this afternoon, why don't we go ahead and at least go around this table and introduce ourselves. Mike, would you like to start?
My name is Mike Genovese. I'm retired from Emerson Electric in the tax department, and I'm a representative of the Franklin County.
I'm Becky Pate. I'm with Downtown Washington, Inc.
Nancy Walkenhorst, and I'm with Coldwell Banker Real Estate.
I'm Julie Scannell with GH Tool and Mold.
Bob Dopsch, Bank of Franklin County, City of Washington.
Sandy Lucy, Gary Lucy Gallery.
John Bauer, president of East Central College and representing the other taxing entities aside from the school district.
John McCullough, School District of Washington.
Ben Holtz, local attorney here in town.
Aaron Griesheimer, Economic Development Director for the City of Washington.
Sherry Claycamp, Assistant City Administrator and City Clerk.
Is there anybody in the audience that'd like to introduce themselves? Mark, go ahead.
Okay, I'm Mark Grimm with Gilmore and Bell. We're acting as special counsel to the city on the project. This is my associate, Nick Weaver. So any questions y'all have, holler at any time.
Anybody else? If not, Aaron, I'll turn it over to you.
All right. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for your time. So we'll jump right into it. So the reason why we're here is because in 2024, the city adopted its comprehensive plan, which laid out a 25-year vision for the city's future. And one of the goals that is outlined in the comprehensive plan, as you see on the screen, is goal 3.2, which states for the redevelopment of Fifth Street and to turn it into a pedestrian-friendly, multi-use corridor that serves as a new entrance into our downtown area. One of the ways that we hope to do this and revitalize part of the Fifth Street corridor is through tax increment financing incentives and establish a TIF district. We currently, in the city of Washington, have 3 TIF districts. We have the Rhine River TIF district, which expires in 2033. We have our Front Street TIF district, which expires in 2040. And we have our downtown TIF district, which expires in 2030. Now, as I stated, we hope to utilize tax increment financing for the revitalization of part of our Fifth Street corridor, but the truth is, the city of Washington, we didn't know if that area even qualified for tax increment financing. And so the city of Washington in 2024 hired PGAV planners to conduct a study of the area, as you see right here. So the Fifth Street redevelopment area, which is highlighted, to the west side of Fifth Street. It goes a couple blocks over from Stafford Street, and on the east side runs all the way on the map. It shows Franklin Street, which is Highway 47. So PGAV planners took a look at this area, and we asked them to particularly take a look at the shaded area here in red, which is currently the old Cedar Crest Manor nursing home property. What they determined in their study is that not only does the old Cedar Crest Manor property qualify as blighted and therefore qualifies for tax increment financing, that the whole Fifth Street corridor here that you see shaded is considered at risk of being blight and is determined to be a conservation area, which also qualifies for tax increment financing as well. So, knowing this information, just recently, the City of Washington accepted proposals from development companies for the redevelopment of the area. And we laid out 4 main goals, as you see here on your screen. One of them was the elimination of blighted conditions. 2 was to generate long-term tax revenue with this development. 3 was to create new employment opportunities, and 4 was to add dining, shopping, and lodging opportunities with this project. As you can see, the deadline was actually yesterday. So I'm happy to announce that we received one proposal from DSS Building Group, which was for a mixed-use hospitality development, which essentially would be a Marriott-branded hotel, which would be 4 stories tall. It would house up to 120 rooms. It would house meetings and event space between 3,000 and 6,000 square feet, restaurant and retail space between 3,000 and 8,000 square feet, with parking on site of 163 parking spaces. The developer has shared a proposed site plan with the city that you can see on the top of the screen. That is where 5th Street is. So the development would be abut to 5th Street. So in the northwest corner, you would have the hotel development with 3 retail spaces on the eastern side. The parking spaces would be accessible from either Elm Street or Cedar Street, and you can see the parking spaces would be accessible from the alleyway from Elm Street and Cedar Street. So we have the developer here. If there's any specific questions, or Bo, if you want to provide any additional details to the proposal.
Yeah, thank you, Aaron. Again, my name is Bo Reinberg, and while I don't currently live in Washington, I have a lot of historical roots in this town and in this county, and in this room sometimes. So, you know, when we first heard about an opportunity on 5th Street to acquire this property, you know, it started 3 years ago, and the idea was this use that served the community so well was kind of obsolete, right? Cedar Crest had moved on. They weren't going to come back as what was kind of originally thought of. And so you've got this property that really is a perfect rectangle, which is great for development, but you have this old obsolete building on it that has some environmental challenges with asbestos, and we couldn't bring that back to a use that made economic sense. And so as we looked at the comprehensive plan and really the strategic goals of the city for the 5th Street corridor, for us, it really checked a lot of those boxes that were first up there for the 4 main goals. I mean, this has potential to be certainly a big project, but it has a chance to be kind of a catalytic type project, but for some of the challenges that the site presents, not only with the topography and the location, but the current building itself. It kind of makes me think back to, if you look at the very first TIF, the downtown TIF, you had this old historic Bank of Washington, and quite frankly, it would have been probably less expensive and probably economically a better decision to move out to the highway in a greenfield site where it's easier to build. There's kind of less barriers. But through the use of a TIF, they were able to expand their location here, employs 150 people, and really help kind of spur the continued development of downtown that's been so successful. We really see this as a very, very similar project. This project could certainly occur out on the highway somewhere where all the other commercial growth, for the most part, has occurred. And 15 years ago, before the apps for hotels, it probably would have had to go out there, because you've got to have that drive-by traffic to generate the room stays that you need, especially in that Sunday through Thursday traffic. With the increased popularity of whether it's a Hilton app or a Marriott app, you know, finding your hotel is much easier now. And so there's much less dependence on being right on a highway or on an exit or on an off-ramp. And so really, when we toured Marriott through the community, they immediately took to all this positive momentum downtown and said, we want to be as close to this as we possibly can be. So for us, that really helps say, okay, we've got this opportunity here, but there's obviously this significant challenge with the site and really with the economics of making something work 7 days a week versus just 3 days a week. We think that with the growth of Fifth Street, downtown, the industrial park, Mercy, all of the residential growth, not only within Washington, but the greater Franklin County area and across the river, that a project like this can really be an asset for everybody in the community. Recruiting new talent, recruiting new people to come in and stay. You've got a wonderful option that's close to our greatest asset, which is the river in downtown. So for us, it really made a lot of sense. And I think the other thing too to think about is we've really maintained a community focus from the time we bought the property all the way up and through. This property's been used by the fire department, Franklin County SWAT, police department, St. Francis Borgia. Numerous deer groups have taken like old freezer parts to use at their deer camp. So I say that because that's the spirit of doing a project that the community is invested in, and we want to maintain that throughout the entire process. So, be happy to answer any questions that I can.
How many beds? You may have said it.
120-ish. I mean, some of it is,
No, that's fine.
yeah.
Now, is that will the tourism tax apply to that? Tax doesn't exclude tourism taxes, does it? The TIF would not exclude a tourism tax?
It does not exclude the tourism, the $5 bed. 5%. 5%.
That would still be generating revenue for the city? Is that correct?
Yes.
I'm curious, I'm trying to wrap my head around what a 4-story building would look like right there on Fifth
Big.
Street. I mean, because that's kind of one of the, if there's any downside of the Bank of Washington, it's like all of a sudden, there's no sunlight and there's nothing there.
I don't want to stand here and say that it's not going to be a big building.
Will it be up on
Because
top of that
It will.
berm still?
I mean,
It's gonna be-
again, some of that is still within kind of the engineering and design. But the whole idea is that you've got this elevated, it's already elevated, and you're up above kind of looking into downtown to the river. I mean, but again, it is absolutely a large-scale project.
Would our people have any input into what it will look like? Will it be brick? Will it be, are you representing the historical integrity of downtown?
Yeah, so one nice thing so Marriott, the way their design standards work is that, once in conjunction with them, you've selected kind of one of the flags, whether it's a Fairfield Suites or a Courtyard or what have you, they have, here's what our out-of-the-box looks like. They've already said that they will relax those standards so that we can incorporate it into the fabric of downtown. So they understand that it's not gonna be their out-of-the-box look. And so we've already got buy-in from them.
Is it all guest rooms? Are there like conference room facilities as part of it?
Yeah, so there'll be conference room. If you look to the left up there is a plan for conference rooms.
Okay.
Somewhere in that 3,000 to 6,000. I mean, we're still working through the retail development and, trying to figure out what the best mix of is, as it relates to retail and conference. And the other caveat was that if you, really the farthest retail, that's what we call it the Fisher House. It's the house right next to Cedar Crest. We've owned Cedar Crest now for over 2 years. We just have the Fisher House under contract as of like 3 weeks ago, when unfortunately Ms. Fisher passed and the timing was right for the family to sell the property. This plan works without it. It makes it a lot easier with it. We also own across the street the Purcell property at the corner there, and that was purchased about 6 months ago in part to kind of make sure that we had the right scale for parking and events and any ancillary business that might come about.
And what about Sixth Street? Or do they have any, will you get any pushback from the residents on Sixth Street from?
You know, I mean, we've tried to be, we've been a good neighbor. I mean, most of them have I think Darren and the city can attest that I give my cell phone out to neighbors and they call me and we respond quickly if there's been an issue at Cedar Crest. I don't know if chances are at least one of them is probably going to say we don't want a 4-story building. I mean, just in total honesty. But we want to be a good partner and a good neighbor and have never had an issue that we haven't been able to work through and resolve.
Are there any height restrictions on that side of Fifth Street?
I believe the code, and Aaron, you can correct me, I believe it's 90 feet is what the ordinance is. Is that correct, Aaron?
Yeah.
Howdy, Aaron Beckman, city planner. It's 60 feet.
Thank you.
Yeah.
In downtown, though, it's,
Downtown's a different zoning.
yeah, that's what I'm,
Because Bank of Washington was an exception.
right, that's what I was trying to clarify, that in my head. So anyway, downtown is a different zoning, and so you're across the street, which would allow the 4 stories, so.
Any other questions?
This will get into probably the explanation of tax increment financing, but you mentioned it in your presentation. What are some of the but-for conditions for you as a developer that make this challenging and need to use something like TIFs?
Yeah, so it really, the environmental and the structural challenges of the site, it really, without TIF assistance, a project like this, of this scale and magnitude, would not be achievable.
Is environmental asbestos or are there other environmental?
Asbestos.
It's strictly asbestos or are there others? Okay.
No, it's asbestos. And then when you look at, the related infrastructure around the site and the walkability of the site, lighting, streetscape, none of that will, it doesn't work for a project like this.
Can you explain what you mean by that? What do you mean the lighting and streetscape doesn't work for a project like this?
Well, meaning that there's going to have to be significant off-site improvements to sidewalks, landscaping,
Okay.
a turning lane, curbs, gutters, things that, we wouldn't be able to put this type of building on top of a site that had those challenges, or that's laid out like it is now.
Without the TIF?
Yeah.
When do you expect to have this complete? Do you have a time frame?
We'd love to be able to start demolition, certainly this, kind of late summer, and then really move into the construction phase so that by the end of 27, early 28, we would be open.
Okay.
I'm sure this isn't set, but on Sixth Street, are all those parking spaces going to be off of Sixth Street?
I would say that the rear there with Sixth Street, the civil engineer is still kind of dialing into how that's going to work.
But Mike, to answer, that's actually an alleyway.
I was going to say, I didn't know if it
An
was a
alleyway?
street or a.
It's an alleyway.
Alley with the neighbors. Is it currently up on a, like a retaining wall? Is it
No,
higher or
it's,
is it
it's.
right out in there?
It's at grade now, yeah.
I don't drive through that alley very often.
They used to use that for parking for Cedar Crest also, I think, because I've sold some houses right there that backed up.
And
to that
unlike
alley.
some projects where you're able to kind of scale as market demand to absorb some of the risk, we couldn't build just 10 rooms and then, it's going well, and then build 20 rooms and then, it's going, is this, the hotel side of things requires this type of density for this type of product. You can't, Marriott won't even do product that's less than 80 rooms. And so we really felt like that's really important for this to be as successful as possible for the community, and is that it has that flag. And I really think Washington's ready for that, and it will just kind of further enhance the other kind of stakeholders within the community.
So if the height becomes an issue with the community, is the 3 stories optional, or is?
Probably not.
Got to go with the 4 to make the numbers
Probably.
work? Okay.
Does Marriott have any concerns about the number of parking spaces? So if you have a conference going on, you're full bed-wise, there happens to be an event going on downtown, 163 spaces is not going to be enough.
That's why we bought Purcell.
Okay, so is that going to happen in conjunction with this, or is it going to be a wait and see, or?
The answer is I don't know.
Okay.
I don't have a good answer for you.
Okay.
But that was a major driver in acquiring that property.
Are we thinking of developing that, or just leaving it as it is and letting it be overflow parking?
If it were used for parking, we would not leave it the way it is. It would be developed into a surface parking lot. But we're also working with the other neighbors that are invested in that area, whether it's Fisher Oil, the gas station, I can't think of the new name. Auto Express. There's a popular restaurant that folks would love to have additional parking for. So I think there's a lot of really good needs
Lot of
and
stuff going on there.
possibilities right there.
We're not talking a 6-story parking garage, though.
No. No, 5.5.
I was going to say, are we talking 5 or?
I was going to say 7, so no.
But possibly a garage.
That's not currently in our plans, but
Okay.
we're very open and understanding of parking challenges within downtown. And while this will absolutely bring more people, and hopefully all those people will want to stay here and walk downtown, maybe that will happen or won't happen, but we want to be part of the solution for parking, whatever that looks like. We're completely open book on it. So, up to and including if there is parking across the street, having that shared, having that open for, folks coming into town. I think there's a way to really work together so that it helps things and doesn't hurt things. There's the other thing that some of the studies that we looked at showed is, obviously there's a huge spring, summer, fall wedding environment, whether it's Herman, across the river, here. But lodging is really challenging, so folks bus in for the wedding or bus in for the dinner, then bus out. Like, we see this as now you can, come here Friday night, everyone stays at the hotel, rehearsal dinner in Washington, wedding wherever on Saturday, come back. I think it can really, again, really improve things for businesses in this district, which is what we're gonna, that's what Fifth Street needs. I mean, Fifth Street needs some positive activity. You gotta be able to do more than
Some love.
buy guns and Hardee's biscuits.
Oh, that's right. I mean,
And
Can we
we're
still do
talking-
that?
This is just room, this is just space. It's the ballrooms, it's the bedrooms. It's not, we're not aiming for this to be a full conference center or
No.
wedding venue
No,
that's
no,
going
no,
to
no,
take
no.
business from these other entities.
No. That's not the,
It's just the space.
yeah. This is dividable space. It can be for business groups, training seminars, anywhere from 10 people to maybe 100 people. But it's not an event space.
Does Marriott allow like outside caterers to come in and still do that, or
Oh,
they
yeah.
can have their own?
Because really Marriott, this will be operated by an independent third party that we'll be partners with, that has a lot of experience operating Marriott hotels. So a lot of that food and beverage and integration with retail, that's on the owner's side. Marriott has standards that you have to stay within.
Right.
In order to be able to kind of be on their flag and on their reservation system, but there's a lot of autonomy with the operating partner.
I think they would need to be a partner with the community and not running out.
Yeah, no.
As-
Ben, going back to the parking issue, I just heard you say that conference area up to 100 people. So that's in addition to the guest day.
Yeah, and I would say that, again, that's why Purcell was important for us to purchase. I mean, I think if you look at, your average occupancy, depending on when the event is, how many of those 100 are also staying in the hotel, how many of those, rode 2 or 3 in a car. I mean, there's 1-to-1 on the hotel room side is normally pretty good. So we're over 1-to-1. So we feel like we're in a good spot there.
But if you have retail and food, that's staff as well, so that's going to eat up all of your one-to-one space, and then if you happen to have a meeting that has 60, 70 people in it, you're done, and there's no space on Fifth Street.
Right.
So that's my concern. If you guys don't do the Purcell lot initially, where are these people going to park if you guys all of a sudden have a huge influx in people staying or events or anything like that?
Right. Yeah, and I think that's valid. I think that, again, that speaks to the importance of, getting this project from this stage to moving forward so that we can really collectively kind of work with the city and work with downtown to say, what do we need to do to solidify this?
So, Ben, I think a lot of those questions are going to be answered when you have a little bit more detail on the plans. How far away from having a full set of plans for?
A full set of plans? I mean, we're,
More than just a floor plan?
yeah, probably 60 days.
So there's no restaurant in the hotel?
There'll be light food and beverage offering and a breakfast option. But it won't be a full service. This isn't, if a Courtyard Marriott or a Fairfield Inn has they've got a little section.
Can the retail, can those be restaurants?
Sure.
I don't,
I mean, the retail is not set in stone at this location. I mean, I think we'd love for that to happen, but that's probably 40 parking spaces, So if we say, hey, why don't we get the hotel established, really feel good about where we're at there, and then see what we can attract. I mean, retail is tough. I mean, everybody knows so we're not going to build an empty shell of a retail building with the hopes that we've got a tenant. We're going to wait for that right opportunity.
Are you going to need a stoplight at either one of those corners?
I don't know. I don't think so.
I don't know.
If the parking's developed, would that be a separate project? What are the mechanics of that, or will that be rolled into this? Since the timing on that is, off in the future, would it just come forward as, if it is even proposed as a TIF project, as a separate one, or not?
I think we'd have to probably work together on figuring out if that's going to be a project that's included with this or not. I mean, I think we're totally open to combining those to make it one project. But I also want to be respectful of the other businesses in that area that we're working with to try and kind of work together. And it really all hinges on the ability to develop this.
Yeah, my question, I think, was more the mechanics of this process, if we would be looking at it as, this is one project and later parking would come separately, or if the intent is.
I think the way that, and Mark Grimm would probably be able to answer the question better, or Aaron, as far as, this district was established blighting an individual site, but with the entire district is in this conservation area so that it's all eligible
Right.
on a project-by-project basis.
Right.
Any other questions?
Right now.
All right. Thank you, Bo.
Thank
all.
you.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
I think we're gonna table the election of officers until the next meeting here, if I remember correctly.
What about the explanation of tax?
Yeah, you want to go to item number
Yeah.
3? Mark, you want to come up?
Mark Graham?
Okay, good afternoon. I think everybody, or many of you, have a pretty good idea of how tax increment financing works, but it's been a while since Washington has done a TIF project, and so just to make sure we're all on the same page, thought I'd give a brief overview of how TIF works and the process. And this might answer some of your questions about this project as well. As I understand it, in the city had been, as Aaron mentioned, had been talking about the need to, quote, do something along the Fifth Street corridor for some time. And it just happenstance, I guess, is my perception that Bo's project came along about the same time this was being considered anyway. And so even though a lot of discussion has been about the hotel, I don't want to forget about the rest of the corridor. And so what, you saw the vision up there of this corridor that's reminiscent of what the city did in downtown to try and spur some activity and redevelopment efforts. And so, one of the thoughts that one of the concepts that worked downtown, which I think has been in discussion here with the city, is to try and create some programs that would benefit not just one big development and have maybe a streetscape program, have used part of the TIF revenues to create a facade improvement program. So if you're a smaller owner of a smaller business or building along Fifth Street, that there would be some funds that can be accessed that looking at a single property might not generate enough TIF revenues, but the concept of having the corridor was to create something that's going to benefit the wider area and have this program that people can apply for funds to maybe improve their individual business. So what will happen is when the TIF is created, assuming the city adopts tax financing, the assessed valuation will be frozen for the area, or for at least each redevelopment project area, and I'll get into that in a minute. TIF captures 100% of the incremental real property taxes, with some exceptions, and 50% of the incremental sales taxes, with some exceptions. So generally speaking, what the taxing districts, other taxing districts continue to receive throughout the TIF period is taxes on the base assessed valuation, personal property taxes, TIF doesn't capture. TIF does not capture the commercial surcharge that's imposed on commercial property. And then TIF doesn't capture, on the real property side, TIF doesn't capture the tax levy for the SB 40 board. TIF doesn't capture emergency taxes for emergency service districts, the ambulance district. On the sales tax side, TIF captures, as I've mentioned, only 50% of the sales taxes. 50% continues to be distributed to the county, the city, the other taxing districts. So all the TIF revenues go into a pot of money and can be used to pay for redevelopment project costs. And the city and the developer will negotiate what's the appropriate amount of incentives for that project. And as other projects come along, the city can determine what's appropriate for those projects. You might be wondering why blighted area for part of the property and conservation area for other parts. One of the possibilities for the hotel project is that it may entail a community improvement district, which would impose a sales tax just on that site. And the community improvement, it's not uncommon for a community improvement district to impose a separate room charge just on hotel rooms. So under the community improvement district statute, if it's a blighted area, you can spend money, the CID revenues, on a broader universe of costs, such as demolition and environmental remediation. So why did we not just do a conservation area for the entire area? Well, that's why, because it gives us collectively us wider flexibility on figuring out how to apply the funds to pay for part of those costs that you've heard about.
So it's not SID or TIF, it's SID and
Probably
TIF.
so, right. And again, the council had, I mean, the proposal, I haven't even seen the proposal.
Yeah.
It was submitted, today, yesterday? So, but obviously, there have been discussions, and we've been talking to the city for a long time about, hey, if you overlay tools, I think many of us understand that if you're a property taxing district, you would prefer to have a CID. Developer may not prefer, but if you're a property taxing district, you'd prefer to have a CID overlay in order to lessen the amount potentially of TIF assistance, right? So we've been talking these concepts for quite some time.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Dr. Bauer.
Who can participate in the CIDs as far as other entities? Is that at the discretion of the city, or is it in statute as far as?
Well, at some point, there'll have to be a discussion about, well, is the CID just the hotel, or is it broader? And I don't know if those discussions have been had yet.
But does the statute prescribe the types of entities that can participate, or is it pretty broad and it's at the discretion at the city level?
Well, the city would approve the formation, but it's really the property owners that decide what, is it just a sales tax? Is it a sales tax plus a special assessment? What are the funding mechanisms for the CID? So if the CID is solely the hotel, then from a practical standpoint, it's just the property owner that would decide
Got
that.
it. Got it.
Any of our other projects to combine both of them? See, it was just the 3 TIFs were just TIFs, right?
Well, correct, but the Phoenix Center
Phoenix Center was
has.
They're SID,
that
but
was
they're
SID
not a
only. They
TIF.
were not
Correct.
Right, there's
Yeah,
SID,
so
but
there's
not
no
TIF.
overlay in.
We don't have any that have
not within
combined
the
the
city of
two.
Washington. So it's very common on projects outside of Washington, but you're correct. All the TIFs have been solely TIFs, and the Phoenix Center is solely a CID.
So is there any of that in Franklin County? Anything of that in Franklin County, or is it more?
No other city in Franklin County has a TIF currently. It's being discussed. St. Clair is discussing a TIF, but I'm not aware. I think Union had one way back when that's long since. Is that my memory correct, Dr.
So
Bauer?
if we're on the topic of just establishing a baseline of what's normal out there, do we have a lot, is this a lot of TIF districts and SID districts for our population, for our size?
I don't know. I mean, I compare it to, I look at other mid-sized communities like Cape Girardeau or Perryville, as other communities that have used TIFs successfully in their downtown areas.
Yeah.
No
argument about the validity of it. It's just there's multiple districts, it's a big chunk of us that's not now contributing to the schools and the other issues there.
Yeah, actually, you raise a good point about, quote, not contributing, which, Dr. Bauer actually raised the point about the but-for test. And so so in order to create a TIF district, the TIF commission initially, and ultimately the city council has to find that, first of all, that but for the adoption of TIF, the redevelopment project would not reasonably be anticipated to occur. And so what, with respect to the project, the hotel project, information that the city has requested, and I suspect is in the proposal, it's very common, is show us what the rate of return would be without this and what the rate of return is with the public assistance that you're requesting. In other words, is it a financeable project without this level of assistance?
Yeah.
So the but-for test is one of the key findings. The other key finding is that it's got to be a blighted area or a conservation area within the meaning of the statute, or a combination of blighted and conservation. So the proposed redevelopment area consists of 3 separate redevelopment project areas, and the reason for and one that would encompass just the hotel property, one that would encompass the site where the down by the Sonic and Dollar General, former Dollar General, and then a third, everything in between. And the reason for that is to give flexibility as to when the clock is turned on, so to speak, when the 23-year clock begins. And you may recall that the downtown
That's how they did that.
TIF district had a similar with multiple redevelopment project areas. Okay. So Lindsay with PJV is working on the redevelopment plan, cost-benefit analysis. And so in advance of the next meeting, you'll receive those so that you can review those in advance and then come with any questions that you all have regarding, once you see the actual documents. So I guess that's, I'd be happy to answer any high-level questions regarding TIF, what is TIF, and what's the process. We're going to talk about schedule in a minute. Should I just run into that? And so the TIF commission process. So the TIF commission, I think you all know, is a recommending body. Ultimately, the council will make a finding or not that regarding the adoption of TIF. So statutorily, we've got to prepare a redevelopment plan and cost-benefit analysis, and then provide 45 days notice of a public hearing. So the taxing districts have to receive 45 days notice of a public hearing. TIF commission will then have a public hearing, and then following the close of the public hearing, either at that meeting or at a subsequent meeting, will make its recommendation to the city council. On your agenda shows a tentative date for a next meeting of June 10th. Again, it's subject to your all's availability, and the thought is that at that meeting is when we would ask you to answer any questions you have regarding the plan, the cost-benefit analysis, ask you to set the public hearing date, and then for 45 to 60 days down the road. And then if you want to have meetings between 2 weeks from now and the public hearing, 45 to 60 days, you're certainly welcome to have as many meetings as you want to make sure that all your questions are answered.
Mark, for the benefit of the board members, can you actually just describe what this board actually recommends?
Yeah, so the TIF commission ultimately will be given a draft resolution, and the recommendation will basically be a recommendation to the council that the city council either adopt or not adopt tax increment financing and approve the projects that have been described in the redevelopment plan.
Is this commission actually signing off on the but-for test then, or is
Yeah, so the resolution will say,
just to be clear.
yes, so the resolution will say, yeah, we believe it's a blighted area, conservation area. We believe that the but-for test has been satisfied. So in the redevelopment plan, a lot of TIF districts, like the one that Andy Understall did, it was solely his property, right, was the TIF. Because this encompasses more than just the Bo Reinberg property, you'll see 2 affidavits in the redevelopment plan. One will be an affidavit from him saying for their site regarding the but-for test. And then we're going to ask the mayor to sign an affidavit with respect to the remainder of the redevelopment area, that it's the city's belief that but for the adoption of TIF, the remainder of the redevelopment project would not occur without the adoption of TIF. So the city takes a little added role because of the overall overarching area of the redevelopment area.
But does the clock start then on those other properties, or does it start when a project comes forward?
The latter. So there will be three separate, looking down the road, there will be
Yes.
three separate ordinances, one for RPA 1, one for RPA 2, and one for RPA 3. And so that it's the final adoption of those ordinances that triggers the capture of TIF revenue and triggers the 23-year clock. And so it's financially, the city, and particularly for the area in between, it's pretty self-evident for the hotel, for the other development site, the Dollar General site. When those projects are ready to go forward, it makes sense. Yeah, we're going to adopt the ordinance. The council is going to have an interesting decision. At what point do you pull the trigger on that on the area in between? Do you do it immediately and just start capturing, kind of inflationary increment in order to try and generate a little bit more revenue for facade improvement program and streetscape and those types of things? Or do you wait and do you look in your crystal ball and say, well, we think we're better off waiting 2 years? I don't know.
Well, that gets at my question earlier, because in the previous TIF projects, we were dealing with one developer, had the property, and here you're going to obviously have multiples. That's why I was trying to get at, so what we would be recommending is, action really on this entire district and down zones within that district. But once that's done, as there are individual projects that would come forward within that area, that doesn't come back here. That just goes to the city. Is that correct?
Not sure yet. I think we're going to be having those conversations, we being everybody in this room with the council and the city, and about for those separate redevelopment project areas. Do we try and do we have enough information at this point to present to you, or do we focus solely, or do we come back later on and to the TIF commission when we have more information about potential future projects? So that's a valid question that I'm not prepared to give an answer to today.
No,
maybe at the next meeting we'll have some better insight on that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few permutations that
Yeah.
there's this project, and then with the owner, with another phase of kind of this project, but then you have multiple, who knows how many other projects down the road. So some
Yeah,
clarification.
So that's
would
something
be-
we're gonna have to figure out.
Got it. Okay.
If Drury wants to put a 6-story hotel in the Dollar General spot, then, when do we say stop, right? Or does anybody have that power?
Well, certainly, I mean, planning and zoning.
They can do a little.
is-
Good.
Planning and zoning would do that.
And obviously, none of this circumvents the normal city planning and zoning approval process.
Right.
The other question I have, you mentioned 100% of real estate, 50% of sales tax. What I don't recall, is that prescribed, or is that it's up to 100% real estate, up to 50% sales tax with any latitude, or?
Yeah, that's an excellent point. TIF captures 100% of the incremental real property taxes with the exception, with certain exceptions. But certainly, one option is for the city to, let's say the city says, well, we're only going to make available for any project 75% of, so the city would have the option of declaring as surplus 25%, for example, of the real property increment of the payments in lieu of taxes that are captured. Now, on the Bank of Washington, I don't know, Darren, I forget, what was the percentage?
I think it was 88, yeah.
Okay, so 80% was made available to Bank of Washington, 20% was retained by the city for other
improvements to the
Yeah.
city.
Improvement to the city, within the district, like,
Yes.
within the hanging baskets are part of that. Mhm, yeah. So that money then is spent within that district. You can't spend Bank of Washington TIF money somewhere else. It has to be
Yeah,
spent
generally
within the
within
district.
redevelopment area. So again, one of the decisions that, the council's gonna have to make is, what do we do? How do we, if we want to spearhead a fund, basically, a facade improvement program, for the hotel project, how do we give enough money to that to make that project happen, but also maybe take a part of that money to, help the rest of Fifth Street and kind of kickstart some of the other stuff that the city wants to have happen.
So a related question, 23 years is the maximum, does it have to be? It can.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know that we've ever done less, but it can be less.
Well, certainly can be, I don't know on any of the downtown, once the redevelopment project costs have been paid, so I guess we could do the exercise of see where they're at on
Comes out.
on whether any of those other three projects, how are they progressing? And what's, we could predict, are they going to pay off sooner? Because it's not a blank check. Each of those projects, like particularly on Andy Unnerstall's project, for instance, he was approved for a certain amount of TIF assistance, and there's, he basically holds a TIF note that once that note is paid, the TIF terminates. And so I think we can report back to you all, and we can check and see kind of where that stands and give a prediction based on, historical revenue. At this point, we've got a pretty good idea of how much money comes in, or I'm sure the city has a pretty good idea of how much money comes in every year, and probably could predict if that stays constant, when would it pay off? So that's a good question.
Any other questions?
So will you, go ahead.
Go ahead, Sandy.
Will you come back then with the plan then, at our next meeting?
Yeah,
You're-
so Lindsay from PJV.
Is doing the-
They're drafting it, but they'll be here, I'll be here, so at the next meeting to answer any questions, they will provide an overview of it, of the plan and the cost-benefit analysis, and then we both will be happy to answer any questions that you all have.
All right.
Any other questions or comments? Mark, next meeting's June 10th?
If that works for the commission, so that was a suggested date.
Does that work for everybody?
Works for me.
Okay. All right, that's all we have for today.
If there's nothing else, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Adjourn.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thanks for your input. Oh.
Thank you for asking my questions. You think you and I are on the same page?
Oh.
We'll see. It'll be fine.
I know. I know. Because I don't disagree. It's like the street cake.
I mean, we were.